Hey everybody, welcome back to MamaFin's Kitchen. It's Saturday, still during COVID quarantine. I think we're on about day 35, something like that. And I have a lot of eggs right now. My parents have chickens up at their farm and they had a lot of extra eggs. And so the other night they socially distanced, dropped some on my patio for me and dropped 3 dozen eggs off. And there is no better way to use up a plethora of eggs than a homemade angel food cake. So that's what we're going to show you how to make today, is a homemade angel food cake from scratch. And there is nothing better. And let me just tell you, this is my grandma's old recipe, and I love to call it a blue ribbon angel food cake because blue ribbons at the fair were in plenty when grandma used to make this. Grandma used to frost hers. I'm not going to frost mine. I'm going to leave it raw and serve it with strawberries or some fresh fruit or just munch on it in the coming week. So we're going to get ready and we're going to get started. I want to run you through the ingredients, and this is one recipe that I really want to make sure, if you would, gather your ingredients, get everything measured out in advance. Most of the time in baking, you'll see me just kind of measure as I go. This particular recipe, you need to get everything prepped and have it in your mise en place, have it in place, all your ingredients in place, because once you get started, this will move fairly quickly. So want to make sure that you have all your ingredients ready to go. So the ingredients that you'll need cake flour, and that's different than all-purpose flour. So you can find it at the grocery store, something like this, and it says cake flour. It's a finer grade flour. So make sure that you get you some cake flour for this. We're gonna need cake flour that's divided. We're gonna need 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cake flour that I want you to put into a bowl. And then we're gonna need 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Actually, that's all the flour that you're gonna need. 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons in a bowl. Then your sugar is gonna be divided. You're gonna need 1 3/4 cups of sugar in total. I want you to measure out 3/4 of a cup and put it in a bowl. And then I want you to measure out 1 cup of flour and keep it separate because you'll put it in at 2 different times, okay? Then you're gonna need 1 1/2 cups of egg whites. That's about a dozen eggs, but you're actually going to need to measure your egg whites. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Make sure that your eggs are at room temperature. So set those out, let those come completely to room temperature, because when we whip these egg whites, we want them to come to stiff peaks, and they will do much better when they're at room temperature, and your cake will do much, much better. So really make sure those are at room temperature, okay? Then we're going to need 1 1/2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. You can find cream of tartar in your spice section. So get that and measure that out already, okay? Then you're going to need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I've already measured that out as well. And then you're going to need a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a teaspoon of almond. So we're going to use our friends at Vain Vanilla. I'm going to use their Ugandan vanilla that's extracted in orange spirits. So it's going to give us just a tint of citrus in there too. So we're going to use our Vain Vanilla. Like I said, it's one that's flavored with orange. And then I'm going to use an almond emulsion from my local sweet baking supply here in Topeka. They have all kinds of great baking ingredients. Almond emulsion is a wonderful almond flavoring, and it's a little bit thicker than like an extract, but it gives you great almond flavoring. And like I said, support your local. Vain Vanilla, sweet baking supply here in Topeka. Right now, Vain Vanilla you can order online at vainfoods.com, and at Sweet Baking Supply you can go on their website and see the things that they have, as well as you can call the store, place an order, and you can either pick it up, you can arrange a pickup time, or they'll bring it out curbside to you. So be sure to support all your local baking supplies and local vendors as much as you possibly can. So we're going to need a teaspoon of each of those. And then you're going to need a tube pan, so like an angel food cake pan. A tube pan looks like this. This bottom comes out because that's how you release this. So make sure that you get yourself a tube pan. You do not want to use a bundt pan. You need to have a tube pan. See how it has these little feet on it too? This is an angel food cake tube pan. So make sure you get the right kind of pan for this. And we do not grease that pan. Okay, that is really important when it comes to an angel food cake. I do not want you to touch that pan. Do not grease it. Do not flour it. Do not do anything to it. Okay, so we'll talk about that even a little bit later too. So we're going to get started by first taking our flour. So our 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cake flour that I have measured out right here. And we're going to sift that together with the 3/4 of a cup of the sugar. There's our flour, and then we're gonna put our 3/4 a cup of sugar that we just white sugar that we already measured out, and we're gonna sift those two ingredients together. Okay, we've talked about sifting before. You may have the crank kind of sifter. You may have this kind, a shaker type. Whatever kind you have, it's okay. Just shake it, just sift it into a big bowl. And I'm using my favorite Pyrex. We're gonna sift this together, and then we'll set him aside. And we're basically making this super duper fine. Just about done here. If you have the old kind of crank style, that's cool too. No problem. All right, we got that all sifted. And we're gonna set him aside for just a second, okay? Now, let's talk about your eggs. We need to divide the eggs. We need just egg whites. Right here, you can tell that I've already divided a lot of them. I've done a good portion of it. We need 1.5 cups, and right now, I'm sitting on about 1 1/4. So we wanna divide a couple more eggs to go down into here until we get to our 1.5. Now, when you're dividing eggs, I want you to keep your egg whites that you've already divided in your measuring cup. I want you to divide them separately in a bowl, okay? I want you to take a small bowl, then have a bowl off to the side to put all your extra shells in. Crack that egg in, and what's very important, very important in the process of doing this is I want you to get 0 yolk in this egg white, okay? If you get a shell, just use this to pop him right out. But I want you to only have egg whites, okay? If you get any yellow in there, I want you to pitch it, because if you get any yellow in there, it will not whip your egg whites properly. So now we're sitting on about 1 1/3, so we're probably gonna need 1 more egg white. If you have an egg separator, you can absolutely use that. If you don't have an egg separator, just use your shells, tossing back and forth until you get that white to drop right off. Boom, there's our 1.5 cups. So as you can see on here, we are now sitting at 1.5 cups of egg whites. That took, in this particular instance, I accidentally broke 1 yolk, so I had to pitch that one, but it took me 13 eggs to get to 1.5 cups. So it will take, so what I would tell you is when you're setting your eggs out to come to room temperature, you'll need probably about a dozen, but set them out, let them come to room temperature, give yourself a couple extra in case you get a yolk in and you break one, something like that, so that you've got it already at room temperature and you don't have to wait on it, okay? So as you can see, I had lots of shells, so we're gonna pitch those. Now then, we've got everything kind of ready, and we're going to start this process. I'm going to use my KitchenAid mixer, and I have it right now sat with my whisk attachment on it. Let me show you that. I'm going to get rid of this mess on my countertop. So in our KitchenAid mixer, we've got our whisk attachment on it right here, okay? It just pops right on just like the regular beater, but it's a whisk instead. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put our egg whites into this bowl. And then we're going to put in our salt. So here's our 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Sprinkle that into your egg whites as well. Okay, then we're going to turn this on and we're going to start to beat these, and we're going to beat it until it gets foamy, okay? What do you mean by by beat it until it's foamy. I want you to beat it until it's foamy, where it looks kind of just like this, okay? And once it gets foamy, I want you to take that I want you to take your cream of tartar, which is your 1.5 teaspoon, and I want you to just sprinkle it in on top. Okay. Now then, we're gonna put our beater back in, and we're gonna beat this until our egg whites are stiff and they stand in stiff peaks, okay? So we're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna start it out slow so we get that cream of tartar kind of mixed in. And we're gonna crank this baby up to high speed, and we're just gonna beat these until they come to stiff peaks, okay? Now, as you can see, we're starting to get what we call soft peaks. We're not at stiff peak yet, we're at soft peaks. And what that means is that these peaks, when you pull this out, see how he kind of droops? Just like that. He's a soft peak. He's not stiff yet. So he's almost as stiff, but he's not quite there. So we're gonna beat it a little bit longer. Change the volume of those egg whites. I mean, they are starting to fill this bowl. So, we're almost there. So as you can see, as I kind of pull him out, he's just about there. He's just a little bit still soft, but we're getting there. Okay, so we're gonna beat him just a little longer. Ooh, I'm loving these now. Oh, they look beautiful. Look at that. Boom. When you can pull him out and turn him upside down and he does not fall over, that's what you want. That's a nice stiff peak right there. Pull him out. Turn him over. Nice and stiff. That's exactly what we want, okay? So, we're gonna put our beater, our whisk right back on. Lock him into place. Now, we're gonna turn this back on a very slow speed, okay? And then we're gonna gradually sprinkle in that other 1 cup of sugar that we set aside, that we measured and we just kept aside, okay? So we're gonna turn him on a low, and we're just gonna sprinkle this in a little at a time to mix this into our egg whites. You wanna do this on a low speed because you don't want to destroy all that air that you put into these beautiful egg whites, okay? But we're basically wanting to mix in this sugar so it can dissolve into those egg whites, but keep all that beautiful air. So just do a little bit at a time. This takes a little time to get this all incorporated, but it's worth it, let me tell you. Just about to the end of our sugar. There we go. I want you to see what it looks like. This beautiful batter that we're kind of putting together. Okay, glossy, beautiful. Now, we're gonna put in our teaspoon of vanilla, very carefully, still while we're on this nice little low speed. Drizzle that around. And then that beautiful almond emulsion we're going to put it in too. And this is really what makes that traditional angel food cake flavor that you know and love so well is that almond. I mean, it already smells beautiful the minute you open that almond to put it in. So good. Okay, so we've got this. Now we're very carefully and very gradually going to add in our flour and sugar mixture that we had earlier that we sifted together, okay? So just put in a little at a time, sprinkle it in, gradually add it so that it can get incorporated. And you'll notice that I'm kind of doing it around different sides of the bowl. I find that makes it a little bit easier so that you don't get just big clumps, and it'll mix in a little bit better and a little bit faster. The crucial thing here is a little bit of patience, because you just do not want to get rid of all that beautiful air that you put into those egg whites, because that's going to make your beautiful fluffy angel food cake. Now you can see that it's going to continue to kind of mix that in together. It's incorporating that just carefully and slowly. Don't destroy those beautiful egg whites that you've worked so hard on. Just be patient and don't just dump it all in. You will regret it, because you will not have the fluffy angel food cake that you want. We are just about done here. Put in the very last of our flour and sugar mixture. And let that get incorporated. I should not have worn a dark colored shirt today for making floury angel food cake. That wasn't very bright of me. Okay. You can see that this is all really nicely incorporated down in there now. We're going to slow our mixer. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. So good. You know y'all want to lick it for sure, right? You totally do. And it's okay. When you're making it for you and your family, you can do that. It smells almondy and beautiful. Now the thing I want you to see about this tube pan, we did not spray it with a nonstick spray. We did not grease it. We did not flour it. We did not do anything. And that is crucial, okay? Because the whole purpose of not doing that on an angel food cake is you want this batter to creep up the sides of this as it's baking. That cake's gonna raise and it's gonna creep up the sides. And if you grease it, it'll fall. So if you've ever watched the Great British Baking Championship or the Great British Bake Off or anything like that, you'll know that sometimes those bakers struggle with an American angel food cake because they don't know that. They don't know that you shouldn't grease it and that you shouldn't flour it, or you shouldn't treat this pan in any way, because it will cause it to fall and you will have a flat angel food cake. So you can see that I'm just putting this right down in there. Beautiful, gorgeous. Just smooth him out a little bit. Now then, I want you to take, I mean, y'all look at that. Yum, yum. I want you to just kind of level him out. Just gently. And then we're going to take a butter knife, just out of your kitchen drawer. Take a butter knife, and I want you to run this knife through this. We're basically just taking out any little air bubbles. Big air bubbles, actually. Little air bubbles we're okay with. We want to get rid of any big air bubbles that might be in there that could cause us to have big tunnels in our angel food cake. Okay, so got all that. It's all ready to go. Now, while we were making this, I preheated the oven to 375 degrees. We're gonna bake this for 30 to 35 minutes in that 375 degree ovens. Do not underbake your angel food cakes. If you underbake it, it will fall out of the pan. So bake it until it's a nice golden brown. So start checking it at 30 minutes. It may need to go all the way to 35 depending on your oven, not your onion, but your oven. And I want you to make sure that it is baked, but don't burn it, but do not underbake it because it will fall out of the pan when we go to cool it. And I'll show you how to do that. But we're gonna put it into the oven, okay? Put this into the oven and you'll see that my oven, number one, needs to be cleaned real bad. But I want you to put that rack the second from the bottom. You can see that I've got the second from the bottom rack right there. So put that rack on the second from the bottom, so real low in your oven, and then just put her in, and now we wait. So we're gonna wait for 35 minutes. Start checking it at 30, but we're gonna set our timer for 30 minutes and then we're gonna watch it, but we want it to be nice and golden brown. We'll come back and I'll show you how to cool it, okay? Okay kids, we are about halfway through our 30 minutes and I just want you to see kind of what it's looking like. So we're looking good. See how it has risen up inside that pan, how it's crept up the sides, beautiful. And it's starting to get a little color on it, but that's looking wonderful. Now you're probably thinking, why in the world does she have diced tomatoes sitting out on the countertop? Well, when we go to cool this, we're gonna invert that pan and we're gonna set it upside down on those little feet. And we're gonna set it on these cans to cool. So I want you to find 3 cans in your pantry that are the same height. So if you've got 3 of the same thing, clearly I have a lot of diced tomatoes from Hunt's. So if you just make sure they're all the same height. So grab you 3 cans and set those out on your counter because you're gonna need them in a little bit. Hey kids, so it's been 30 minutes and this is what we look like. So we are looking real good. So we're gonna take this baby out of the oven. So here you can see that it is nice and golden brown and we're gonna flip it upside down and turn it up on top of those cans that we have sitting on the counter so that it can cool, and you want it to cool completely turned upside down. So now you can see we have it sitting on top of these cans and I just want you to let it sit there and just let it sit there until it cools completely, okay? Okay kids, so we have let this cool completely. It's been cooling for several hours. I had a friend that we socially distanced game night with tonight. So we've been playing Ticket to Ride for a while and letting this just sit here and cool. So what you can see from this is you can see there's a gap right here where it has now started to loosen from the base of this pan. That's perfect. But at the same time, you can also see that underneath here, our cake didn't fall out. That's a good thing too. If your cake is underbaked, it will fall out and it will fall onto the counter. Now it'll still taste good, it just won't look so great. So that's why when I told you earlier, make sure that you don't underbake this, that's why. Okay, so we're going to take this out of the pan. We're gonna move these cans out of the way now that we're done with them. Oh, and it's looking so great. I mean, it is beautiful, golden deliciousness. But we're gonna take this out of the pan. So we're gonna run a sharp knife right around the edge of it. So we're just going to very carefully run a sharp knife around the edge here. And then we're going to just push it from that push bottom. Boom! Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So our pan is still on the bottom, so we're going to get a plate and we're going to take that off and we're going to put it onto our plate and we're going to slice her up. So you'll recognize my cake plate from the other night from when we did banana bread. But what we're going to do is we're just going to carefully peel this plate from the bottom. Just separate your cake. You can run a knife along there if you want to, but we're just going to use our finger and separate this from the cake bottom. Just going to release our cake here. Just like that. Boom, look at that. I mean, beautiful angel food cake. And then we're just ever so slightly gonna cut that baby. And I mean, look at that spongy beautifulness that we love in an angel food cake. I mean, it is just beautiful. So we've got our cake, and I mean, I'm telling you, I love angel food cake. That beautiful almond flavor. It's spongy and delicious. Take some fresh strawberries or blueberries, a little whipped cream, put it on the top. Make yourself a nice 7-minute frosting if you want to frost it, but I love to just eat it by the slice like this. Seriously, I love the golden edges, kind of that crunch and that chew to it. It's like the best part. So, make an angel food cake, make it from scratch. They're not that hard, they just take a little bit of time. You'll love it, your family will love it. Y'all stay safe, stay healthy, take care of one another, and we'll see you next time in Mama Fin's Kitchen. Thanks, y'all.